Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sunspot, one of our new podcasts here at the Waxahachie Sun. My name is Scott Brooks of the Sun, and I'm delighted to be the host of Sunspot each week. Because it's election season, Sunspot will launch with several interviews with several of our city council candidates. And I'm happy and honored today to have Mary Lou Shipley with us. Welcome, Mary Lou.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. Mary Lou has, as she will tell you in a few minutes, served Waxahachie for quite some time. So the plan is to be able to provide you with these interviews that are intended to give you just maybe a broader or deeper scope of each candidate and let you hear from them directly and let them tell you directly kind of why they're in it, what they're doing, how they feel, that sort of thing. So again, Mary Lou Shipley, she's been a council person and a number of other things here in the city, which she'll tell you about, is with us today. So Mary Lou, tell the folks about your background, your experience, and the things that you've done here in Waxahachie.
All right. Well, I was lucky enough to get my first job out of law school here in Waxahachie. I worked as an assistant district attorney from 1980 until 1986. And at that point, I was appointed to be the district attorney, and then I ran for district attorney after that until 1992, and I lost that election, which was okay. And then I was in private practice for a while. I worked in the city attorney's office in Dallas for a couple of years, which is a really interesting experience. And then I decided I needed to come back to Waxahachie and open a practice here. And I got a lot of encouragement to do that. And so I did that from, I would say, 95 until I retired at the end of 2012.
Wow. So what is that? That's 17 years.
Something
yes,
like
something
that.
Like that. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been on city council now for?
I have been on the city council since 2014.
Okay, so 7 years.
Yes.
Which is, you guys serve 2-year terms, so that's?
Yes, but I started out, I filled the unexpired term of Buck Jordan after he passed away.
Okay, got it. All right, cool. So what makes you want to be a city council person? You know, it's an unpaid, volunteer, very important job, but what drives you? What makes you want to do that?
Well, city government always interested me. It did even when I was in law school, and I took several courses in that area. And so I probably would never have run for the city council except when this opening came along, a group of my friends came to me and said, "We want you to run for this place. We think you'd be good in it, and we will support you, and we will fund you." And so I really thought about it for a while. I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And so I've been there ever since, and I thoroughly enjoy dealing with issues involving municipalities.
Right. Yeah, it fits right in with your kind of your legal background.
It does, but in no way am I practicing law there.
Right, got it.
It's just there's some background knowledge that's very helpful.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. What do you like most about serving on city council?
I really enjoy when somebody calls me up about a problem and asks me to help them, and I'm able to.
Right.
That's very rewarding.
And that happens quite often? Often enough,
Often
I guess?
enough,
Yeah.
yes.
So if you use a 40-hour work week and you guys every other Monday night put in what could be an hour or two, whatever, maybe longer because you have executive session or the workshop or the pre-meeting.
Yes.
How much time does the average council person spend being a council person on a weekly basis in your mind?
I think everyone on the council is different, but for me personally, and I'm including going over what's going to happen at the next meeting, reading up on things. I probably spend 12 to 15 hours a week.
Got it. So one of the challenges the city has had, and I think other cities face it, is that a lot of people, or a number of people, want to be a city council person or mayor or be in city governance. Many of them don't know what that means. And so we have folks who, as I've used the word before, as you know, leapfrog what might be other serving kind of opportunities, whether it's on commissions or boards or volunteering or whatever, to learn that way about what it might take. We end up with people who are eager to run. We applaud their passion, but that passion can also be it's a blessing and a curse, because the curse can be that you just don't know what you're passionate about. You have an idea, but you don't really know. So if you were able to describe or define what you think is the best path for somebody to become a council person, what would that kind of look like to you?
Well, I think you need to have some kind of experience in government somewhere. I think that experience on some of the many city committees is invaluable. Now, I came to this having served on the Planning and Zoning Commission.
For how long?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't remember exactly how long I was on there.
That's all right.
Probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And what the Planning and Zoning Commission does is really, really important to what happens in our city, because they are the ones that vote on and accept or don't accept plats, subdivisions, ordinances involving that, SUPs, which are special use permits.
Right.
Just many, many things like that. And that experience on the Planning and Zoning Commission is really valuable, because otherwise someone's going to get in there and sit down at their first city council meeting and kind of think, what is a plat? Should I vote for this or not vote for it? Is this a good one or a bad one?
Right.
And so the experience of having been on the Planning and Zoning Commission is just great.
Right.
It really helps you.
Helps you, yeah. Yeah, so, and I think even Doug Barnes at the City Council last night mentioned that there are 21 boards or commissions that fill up the city.
There are,
And so there are a
yes.
number of, all the way from the cemetery board to planning and zoning and stops in between,
yes,
right?
Yes, and some of those are more active than others.
Right.
Planning and zoning is probably the most active. The park board is really important.
Right.
The cemetery board is important. And others, I was looking at a list of them this morning, and some of them you will never have heard of, and I'm not sure how long it's been since they may have met.
Right.
But they're there, and they're required to be there, and if the need arises, they're prepared to serve.
Right. Currently, you serve as Mayor Pro Tem, which that's a term that a lot of people maybe have heard, don't really know what it means. So what does that mean?
Well,
And how did you get it? How did you arrive at that?
okay, I was chosen by the council members.
Okay.
The way our council is set up, the council elects the mayor, and the council elects the mayor pro tem. And the mayor pro tem is kind of like a deputy mayor. You
Right.
can, if the mayor assigns me some duties to perform, I will certainly do them, and always I would be there to serve if he was absent.
Right.
I know, and that's rarely happened, but a few weeks ago, Mayor Hill was tied up in a meeting, and so I presided at the meeting.
Right. Got it.
It's an assistant presiding officer.
Got it. So just your opinion about how, because in many cities mayors are elected.
Yes.
This system has been in place for a long, long time, maybe
Longer than
forever.
I
I
know.
don't. Yeah.
I don't know how
What
long.
do you prefer one over the other? Do you like the mayor being appointed by city council members, or do you like it being a vote that goes to the people? You have a thought on
I
that?
have no experience with a system where the mayor is elected by the public, so I don't know. The way we do it works very well because the council usually knows who's a capable and competent person.
Right. And who isn't?
And that's right.
Yeah, gotcha. So the budget. The budget is often the topic of lots of discussion.
It is.
It's the topic of some people who know about the budget because people can access the budget. And then it's the discussion or topic of people who only think what maybe is in the budget or what they've heard is in the budget.
Right.
Describe a little bit for our listeners what the budget process, how long it takes, the role of a council person, what you feel about the budget, that sort of thing.
Okay. The budget starts out being prepared by the city manager, and he doesn't do it by himself. He has all his department heads send him, I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but maybe a list of what they wish to be in their department's
Right.
budget. And so then he works within that to try to make the money that we think is going to be available.
Right.
And that may be a long time coming before we actually have those numbers. But he works with that and prepares a proposed budget. We usually have hearings. It will be all the department heads, and there's quite a number of them.
Yeah.
And the council, and we will go over the budget. The finance director usually is the one that will explain the various things and why this department was allocated this much money, and and it depends. That can take half a day, a couple of days. It kind of depends on how difficult the budget has been.
So every year the budget, if you remember or can recall when it starts about every year.
Yeah.
Is it May? Earlier than that, maybe?
I'm thinking maybe May or June.
May or June. And
yeah.
then the process lasts all the way through October, right? Or September?
Until we have passed the budget.
Right.
Yeah.
And the community is invited to, at certain times, workshops, and of course they can come to any city council meeting.
Any city council meeting, and they can come to those budget workshops also. Absolutely. We don't do anything in secret.
Right. And so how many people normally attend those workshops?
You mean the public?
Yes. It's few in number.
Very few.
Yeah.
Very
So
few.
one of the challenges again that we have is that the budget, which is designed to run the city, and a lot of work is put into it. There are opportunities for the public, people like you and me, that can attend, listen, ask questions. I think.
Yes.
But rarely do people attend. So one at least factor for me is that to be more involved, for our community to get involved in the budget process, or at least know what the budget process involves, what's in the budget, that sort of thing. Because so much conjecture happens about taxes and who knows what when it comes to budget discussions. So it's a lengthy process, and a lot of people put in a lot of work. Right?
The city manager's office and the whole city staff put a tremendous amount of time into that.
Okay. So, again, going back to those who want to be on city council, what misconceptions or what do you think they should know that they don't know about becoming a city council person or sitting on council? Earlier you said, they may find themselves in a meeting or hear the word plat or SUP or any number of names or words that they don't, unless you've been in city governance or city council, you're not going to know what that means, probably. So what I guess, I don't know about misconceptions, but what do you think people who are running for council now and in the past and the future don't know?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot. One of the things that I think the public generally doesn't know is that there are many constraints on what we can do, even dealing with planning and zoning issues.
Right.
We can't, excuse me, we can't just willy-nilly change a plat, or sometimes we can't just deny something because we don't like it. If an applicant has met all the requirements, say, to do a plat,
Right.
we can't just on a whim say, nah, we're not going to do this.
Right.
I remember specifically when I worked for the city of Dallas, there was, well, the council there did that because all the neighbors were up in arms about this particular plat, and they had been told, the council had been told, you really have to pass this because
Right.
they met all the requirements. But they didn't pass it, and it resulted in multi-million-dollar litigation.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that we can't always do what we'd really like to do.
Right.
One of the things that we are seeing most often now is, of course, there's so much development going on in the north part of Waxahachie.
Right.
And a lot of that has been either in planned development where there hasn't really been specific zoning set, or some of it is already zoned for one thing. And for example, not too long ago we had somebody come in with wanting to put in an apartment complex in a certain location, and the people in the neighborhood did not want that.
Right.
But we didn't have any choice about it because it had been zoned multifamily for probably 20 years.
Right.
So, you know, sometimes we don't really have the choices we wish we might have.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you end up taking the brunt of what the I don't know, anger that people have
Well,
about it.
sometimes,
You know, and
yeah.
so, you know, that's the other thing that the community, we hope to expose folks to by some of these
Sure.
interviews, is that there are laws in place that prevent you from saying, we don't like that, and so we're going to reject it.
That's
Or deny it or whatever.
Yes.
So, yeah, we hear about that quite often at the Sun, you know, from folks who write us and say, well, why are they putting up another apartment community, you know, wherever, or a convenience store or whatever, and there's only so much the city council can do.
That's true.
Yeah.
We don't have unlimited authority.
Yeah, exactly. Seems like all the time around this city and most cities is taxes. There's a lot that go into taxes, and there are some things that are directly controlled or impacted by city council, and there are some things that aren't. So with respect to taxes, just, I don't know, give us what you think about taxes, what might be helpful for people to know about how taxes actually work, the tax rate, that kind of thing, and we'll just listen.
All right.
Okay?
Well, first, everybody on the city council pays taxes just like you do.
Right.
And nobody likes it.
Right.
But if we're going to have a healthy, livable city to live in, we have to pay taxes. We want good roads. We want the potholes fixed. We want safe water to drink. We want good drainage so that when it comes a big rain, our houses don't flood. So the only way we get those is through levying taxes. Waxahachie's tax rate right now is 66 cents per $100 valuation. And as probably all your listeners know, property values are established by the appraisal district.
Right.
And we don't have any control over what they do. People have the right to dispute the appraisal on their property, and they may be successful, they may not be. We have to, we actually lowered our taxes last year.
Right.
And we did that because we were able to. Of course, it was during the pandemic. A lot of people had lost their jobs, and we were trying to do what we could to help out the citizens of Waxahachie. We did some other things just besides that, but taxes are just that unpleasant thing that we must have.
Right.
And if you look around in the city of Waxahachie, I can tell you that we have good infrastructure here, and that's important. It's important that we have good roads. It's important that we have a good, safe water system. So we look at all those things. There are just certain things that we have to pay for.
Yeah, so when you hear whether it's other people running for council, or anyone else for that matter, talk about we must lower taxes, we all want that to happen.
Sure.
You know, as you said, you guys pay taxes, we pay taxes, everybody pays taxes, so we want them to be as low as possible, but get what you pay for, so to speak. So, you know, the question for those who say, well, let's lower taxes, the question is, well, what are you gonna do without if you want to lower taxes? And of course, as you mentioned, the appraisal folks impact taxes as well. And I think more and more people are becoming aware of that part of the equation. But Waxahachie is what it is because, in part because of taxes. And having lived all over the place, I don't think Waxahachie is any more taxed proportionately than any other place I've lived. But I don't know if you would refer to it as a burden, but it's a topic that is ever present, correct?
It's always a topic that people will leap on.
Right.
But if you talk to people that are complaining about taxes, and we talk to a lot of them,
I bet.
and that's fine. But the thing is, when you ask them, well, what would you like for us to cut from the taxes? Mm-hmm. What do you want to do without? I've never gotten much of an answer from anybody.
Right.
Because things are good in Waxahachie. This is a wonderful place to live.
Sure is.
People don't want to do without the things that we have here. We have good roads. We have wonderful parks and recreation areas, and that's what makes Waxahachie what it is.
Totally
and
agree
we just have to recognize that, unfortunately, taxes are how we get there.
Yeah, kind of a necessary evil.
They are.
So
they are.
One of the I don't know, gifts or blessings in Waxahachie is Baylor Scott and White.
Absolutely.
It's what now, 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
It was within the past, I'd say 18 months, maybe past year, that the hospital, Baylor Scott and White, gave to the city the old hospital.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is vacant for the most part, and sits in what can be a prime location for a developer. There are some who believe that gift is, the favorite word is boondoggle. What do you think about the gift to the city and what it is and what it might do for the city in the future?
Well, first, there are obviously going to be expenses involved in developing that property. Right. And one of the problems, just as an example, there's asbestos in that building. Mm-hmm. So there's going to have to be remediation for that. The old building is not useful anymore. Right. To make that a productive and valuable piece of property, that old building is going to have to be taken down, mm-hmm. and that's going to cost money. Mm-hmm. But so that we can actually develop that whole tract of land. And it is a beautiful tract of
Yes,
land,
it is.
many big, nice trees on it.
Right.
It's right next to the park. In order to do that, there's going to have to be some development done, and that means some money spent.
Right.
But it will repay us in the long run, because, for example, and nobody knows what's going in there right now. But for example, if some kind of a shopping center went in there, that's going to bring us property taxes, sales taxes
right.
that will contribute to the city.
Right. In the what I think is a likely event that happens over time, that a developer comes in and makes it a kind of a retail center, cool one at that.
That's what we hope.
Yeah, the developer would be responsible, would they not, for demolition, tearing things down, or would the city still be on the hook for that?
Well, the developer could be, but realistically, in order to make it a more saleable property, we're going to need to do some work to
Yep.
it. Yes.
Okay, that's a good segue into tax incentives. The most recent tax incentive, I think, that got the most attention, or a lot of attention, was showbiz. There may be others that have happened since then, but showbiz is a beautiful little complex now, and it's got all kinds of fun stuff. They receive tax incentives or abatements or whatever you want to call them. What's your kind of philosophy or feelings about tax incentives? Importance of them, another necessary evil? Just what do you think?
In theory, I think they're a necessary evil.
Okay.
The reality is everybody is handing out tax incentives. If we don't do some for certain properties, some other town will.
Right.
And they will get that business, which in the long run is a loss for us. And I can say that on all of the tax incentives that we have granted since I've been there, we always end up getting back more than we might theoretically be losing.
Right.
It's really.
It's not a loss.
I don't like it, but
Yeah.
it's the better way to go.
Yeah, and I don't think there might be, but tax incentives aren't about the city writing a check to any business.
Oh,
It's
no,
about
no.
it's relief in a sense.
It is a reduction of
Yeah.
property taxes.
An enticement. So the
Yes.
city isn't writing checks for
Oh,
a business
no.
to come here. The
No,
city
no.
is giving a break or an
Exactly.
incentive. Okay. Last question from me. What are the two biggest challenges facing Waxahachie today, in your opinion?
Well, I really think there's one big challenge, and that's growth. And it's managing that growth, because we don't want to lose this wonderful town and have it become unpleasant. We want to maintain what we have, and in order to do that, we have to manage the growth. And everybody doesn't like the things that we want to do to manage the growth, but we don't do anything casually. We don't approve a subdivision casually. It takes many hours of work through the planning department, and there's a development committee that goes over those things. So we are trying to be sure that we don't trade just growth for really good, the best growth. And I feel pretty comfortable in saying we have sent people away that wanted to do subdivisions here,
Right.
and we have declined to approve what they wanted because we just didn't think it was the right thing for Waxahachie.
Right.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
But I think managing that growth, it would be really easy to sit there in planning and zoning or in the city council and just vote yes for everything. But that is not in the best interest of our city.
Right. So the city goes, in terms of city limits, it doesn't go quite to Butcher Road to the north, or does it?
There may be some area over there that crosses over, but basically, no, it doesn't go quite to Butcher.
By example, the RV park, which a number of people were up in arms about, and that it was going to look this way or that way, actually has turned out to be a nice, compact, kind of, it's not an eyesore, at least in my view, and I live out there. But that, the growth is obviously to the north.
Yes.
And with North Grove and all that area there. So managing growth is important. And you know, when I moved here in 2014, I think it was 32,000 was the population of Waxahachie. And today it's
right.
what 40,000?
At least
pushing?
40,000, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So that ends basically what I wanted to ask you about. There may be other questions that folks have, and if you do have questions, feel free to write scott@waxahachiesun.com, and I can send those along to Mary Lou. But I'd like to just let you close however you'd like to close, and then I'll have a few more remarks and we'll be done.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Sure.
I just feel like we have such a wonderful place to live. I am probably bore a lot of my friends that don't live here because I'm always talking about what a great place Waxahachie is, and I am really committed to trying to keep it that way. I don't want to see a lot of change. I know it's going to happen though, so I want to do my part in making it the sort of place we want to live.
Right.
The kind of place it is now. We have such a wonderful history. We have so many beautiful areas in our town, and I want to be a part of maintaining that.
Yes, very good. I thank you for your service and commitment. It's been a long time that you've set and helped lead the city and manage it. So I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that I, along with my team, are grateful for that and appreciate it a whole lot. So that wraps up this interview, if you will, with Mary Lou. We have 4 more coming, and we will be sharing all of the interviews before early voting day, or early voting period, which starts Monday, April the 19th. So we just want you to get a feel for who our city council people are currently, and then those who are running to become city council people. So with that, we'll sign off. Thank you for joining us on Sunspot. Look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye-bye.